Hello my friends and welcome to the last Game of Thrones episode impressions and thoughts video I decided to make. Yes, I have many notes here, many things I would like to talk about. Yes, so I will not be late talking about them, but first things first, as always I would like to let you know that if you haven't watched the series finale by now, I suggest you do so before watching this video, because since I will be talking about everything that happened, it will be full of spoilers. Yes, and then let's address the elephant in the room, the tiara. I thought, since it's my last Game of Thrones impressions and thoughts video, why not put it there? Just like in Game of Thrones, there are many kings and queens, princes, princesses. Why not? I put the tiara and decided to have some fun. Yes, in honor of Game of Thrones. Yes, that's what I wanted to tell you. Let's begin with the opening scene of the episode. We see Tyrion walking through all this debris and destruction that Daenerys and Drogon have caused. We see ashes everywhere, and then of course Jon and Davos are there as well behind him, and you can see that everything is destroyed. Yes, and Tyrion, excuse me, looks at Jon and tells him, "I will find you later." Jon understands that he wants to find Daenerys and talk to him, and he's telling him it's not safe, you should take some of my men with you, but Tyrion decides to go alone. That's what he said. And then we see the next scene, Grey Worm and some Lannister prisoners, and he is about, to execute them, and we see Jon stepping up, and Davos as well, trying to convince him that he shouldn't do it, but Grey Worm says that I don't take orders from you, I take from my queen, and the queen said that you should kill all whom followed Cersei Lannister. And then we see both Grey Worm and Jon disagreeing, and for a moment there I thought they were going to fight. It was a bit of an intense moment there, but of course we have Davos, who I believe is always the voice of reason, and it's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite characters in this series, and he talks some sense into them, and nothing happens. And then we see Tyrion being at the Red Keep, and he takes a torch and he goes down where the dragon heads skeletons are, and where Cersei and Jaime were supposed to escape, and where they were supposed to be. He sees the distraction again, and he finds Jaime's gold hand, and afterwards he finds, Jaime and Cersei dead, unfortunately, their bodies, and they were hugging and everything, and he starts crying. Of course, my heart broke at that moment for Tyrion. It was an emotional scene, and Peter Dinklage is doing a great job, and all these feelings. He's a great actor. Yes, it was so emotional, I have to tell you this, and we hear the Reigns of Castamere playing in the background. Yes, just like we listened to Jaime and Cersei when they were together. Yes, emotional scene. And then we have Arya walking through all the debris as well, and she sees all the parties, and she sees the Dothraki that are celebrating, their victory, and Jon is there too, and we see that Dany has already put the Targaryen banner in the Red Keep, yes, if I'm not mistaken, and Drogon is flying over, yeah, and we see Dany arriving there, And it was nice that when we see her walking, I really like that part of the direction when we see her walking, entering about to give a speech to her people, the Unsullied and the Dothraki. We see her that we see Drogon behind her opening his wings. I love that because it's like she was a dragon, now that she has done all of this and everything. That's how I received it. Like she was the dragon, yes, and then of course she starts making a speech and saying something about the new world and how she's imagining it and how we freed so many people and you stood by my side. She's of course referring to her fighters, and now we're going to make this new world and everything. What else happens there? Oh yeah, she talks to Grey Worm and she makes him the master of war, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, and pretty much she goes on about how she wants to conquer all of Westeros and more. Yes, and then we see Arya looking at her angrily, and Tyrion and Jon are worried. And you can tell that Jon is again, debating inside of him and questioning his loyalty to her and what he's about to do. Yes, and then we see Tyrion approaching to her, next to her, and she looks at him, like someone would look at someone who else who has made a mischief. Yes, and she tells him, "You freed your brother." And oh my god, Tyrion says the line that I was like, oh my god. Yes, I freed my brother, but you slaughtered a city. And he looks at her with, being a bit judgmental look, if I may say. Yes, and at that moment he takes the handspin off and he throws it. Oh my god, that moment I was like, yes, go Tyrion, because you're standing up for what you believe, and at this point you don't believe in her. Yes, and you see that Dany is looking at him with another judgmental look and says, take him. And they take Tyrion, the Unsullied, and Jon is looking at her with worry and a bit of shock, if I may say. And then they leave and Arya goes to Jon. And of course he's wondering, what are you doing there? All these things, they talk, and she says, I came to kill Cersei, but your queen came first. And is pretty much telling him that she's worried about his safety, because now Dany knows who he is, and his claim to the Iron Throne is a threat to her, all these things. And the sentence, the phrase that she said, I know a killer when I see one, was like, whoa, to me, intense as well, powerful one, yes, and strong statement. And you can see that Jon, is already again questioning his loyalty and everything to Dany, and because Arya told him that Sansa is never going to bend the knee and she wants the North, all of these things, she wants the North to be independent, all of these things, yes. And then we see Jon going to Tyrion, who is a prisoner at this point, and Tyrion, they have a nice conversation, very good dialogue there. They say that I betrayed my own friend, and I saw him burn, and he was right and I was wrong, and Varys' asses will tell my asses, I told you, I like that. And then he's telling what he has done so far and all the mistakes he has made about Tywin and Say and everything what he did, and Jon is telling him, but the war is over. Yeah, they have a nice conversation there, and they argue about Dany, and you see that Jon tries to remain loyal to her and everything, but still, he has contradicting feelings inside of him. And yes, then Tyrion asks Jon, what if it was you, in her suit, would you do the same? And Jon says, I don't know, but of course he knows he wouldn't do the same. Yes, because he's Ned's son, even though he's not, he was raised by him, you know what I mean, of course he wouldn't do something like that. Anyway, and then What else happens? Oh yeah, they say the nice. John says what Maester Aemon had told him about love being the death of duty, and then Tyrion says sometimes duty is the death of love. Nice exchange there, and it's a terrible thing that I'm asking. Tyrion says, but it's also right, and. Yeah, what do you think she will do? She's dangerous to the Iron Throne, all these things, and telling him that Sansa informed him about Jon's claim because he had a reason and everything, and he tells him in the end, Tyrion tells Jon in the end that you have to choose and you have to choose now, and you know, Jon is struggling. It was a great scene, and he leaves, of course, and he is going to Dany, but before doing so, he finds a Drogon outside that I'm not sure if it's snow that it is around him, you know, because he's covered in either snow or ashes or both. I'm not quite sure, and he sees Drogon, and Drogon sniffs him and, you know, allows him to go on. And he does, and he goes to the Iron Throne, which was another great scene. The Iron Throne room, we see Dany being there, and it's like one of her visions, the ones she had in the House of the Undying. Exactly, the room is destroyed, but the Iron Throne has survived somehow. I guess because it had to make sense somehow, and see it, yes, and she touches the Iron Throne, and she seems happy, everything she has worked for and wanted for, you know, her entire life is right there in front of her, of course, and Jon comes, and she tells him the story that she was listening to, that her brother was telling her when she was young about the Aegon the Conqueror and the swords, 1,000 swords, and how she has imagined it while she was a little girl and how different it is now. I like that. I have to tell you, I liked this part, yes, and she said I was such a little girl, and it 1,000 swords seemed so too much to me, and this is it. Yes, the Iron Throne, and then Jon is yelling at her for all the children she killed, and you know, asks her to forgive Tyrion, forgive all of them, and he says, please, Dany. Oh my god, that moment, yes, nice, and he's trying to talk some sense into her. He's trying, because you can tell that, you know, he has a battle going on inside of him, and he's debating whether to let her live and give her another chance or not, or kill her. That's how I received it, yes, and Dany says, I cannot forgive, and either, you know, Tyrion or any of them, and something will happen, we will change the world, and please build a new world with me, we will break the wheel and everything, and we will do it together. And Jon asks her, and what about other people? And they say, what about them? Pretty much they don't get to choose, we will choose. And I believe that this was the point that Jon decided what he has to do and did what he did next. He tells him, you are my queen now and always, and they kiss, and he stabs her. And I have to tell you that I was in shock, even though I was expecting it coming, I was still in shock, because both actors did a great job there, and yes, you could feel all the emotions, and oh my god, she dies on the spot, you know, and he holds her, like all this Azor Ahai theory that was going on, and prophecy, and again, just like Ygritte had died in his arms, the same, and then we hear Drogon crying in the background, and he arrives in the room. And there was another scene where my heart broke for Drogon. Oh my god, he sees Dany lying on the floor with blood, you know, in her mouth, and he understands that something's not right, you know, something is wrong, and he's trying, you know, to move her and see if she's alive, and then he realizes that she's not, and he screams, and he has you know, at this moment he's so angry that I think he was going to burn Jon alive. I was sure, and he has his flame, but instead of burning Jon, which I don't know why and how happened, because I don't think it has happened before in the books or anything. They feel the dragons feel their masters' pain and emotions and everything. So I don't know if it was because Danny loved Jon, why he didn't burn Jon alive. I really don't know. I don't understand this part, but instead he decided to burn down the Iron Throne, like he was getting that that was the thing my mom was fighting for, and that was in the end her undoing, something like that. That's how I received it, yes. But anyway, and that's and then once he's done with the throne, he takes Dany's body in his paw. I don't know how you say it, and he flies away. Oh my god, it was such a beautiful scene. I got goosebumps. I'm like, oh my god, Drogon, my heart broke, and he left. Beautiful scene. Yes, and then we see the Unsullied taking Tyrion, and they go to the Dragon Pit, and we understand there that there was a time lapse, and yes, it was probably after a month or a few months, because Tyrion has a grown beard and everything. And then we see the lords and ladies of the seven kingdoms, the big houses. Yes, we see Arya being there, Bran, Brienne, and Lord Royce with sweet little Robin that everybody's talking about, how the actor was looking so good, and yes, he was. And we have Gendry, and if I'm not mistaken, Bronn is there as well, and the new Prince of Dorne that we heard in one of the previous episodes, yes. And once Tyrion is there in the Dragon Pit, Sansa asks where is Jon, and Grey Worm tells her that this is my city now, and we get to decide. And Davos again, being the voice of reason, trying to say to Grey Worm to take the Unsullied and go to the Reeds and take a place there, make it their city, and just be there. And at this point, Tyrion says that they have to choose a king or queen, of course, and we see Edmure Tully standing, and he says that what we decide today, it will be history. And it was fine because Sansa says, "Uncle, please sit down," and he does. And then Sam says, "Why do we have to choose? Why just us? And the decision, should be given to everyone." But the lords, of course, laugh. But I have to tell you that I agree with Sam, of course. It's more democratic this way, yes. But what can you say? The lords were laughing, and someone says, why Tyrion? I don't remember who it was. Why not Tyrion being, on the Iron Throne? And Tyrion says, "I don't want the crown." And he says that the past weeks I've been thinking about our bloody history, and then he says about story, and someone that has to say a story, and he says, who has a better story to say, than Bran the Broken, and he's our memory and the keeper of our stories, and who is better to lead us? And at that point I was like, seriously? Like, why? I don't understand. Bran on the Iron Throne? I would have expected Jon. Of course, being Ned's, again, son to me, because, he was like a child. To Ned, I wouldn't expect him to take it, but why not Jon? And I don't know, maybe Sansa, someone from the Starks, yes, but I didn't expect Bran. It didn't make much sense, even though they tried to explain it with Tyrion and everything, yes. Anyway, and yes, they say that from now on, rulers will be chosen, not born, and the ladies and lords will serve their realm. And he asks Bran if he wants to do it, and he says, why do you think I came all this way? So he was expecting it, obviously, because he has this three-eyed raven thing going on, of course. And Yes, they vote in favor of Bran with aye, and Sansa insists that all I want to say is that the North remains an independent, becomes again, an independent kingdom like it has been for thousands of years. So they agree, Bran agrees, and they announce Bran the Broken as their new king. I don't know. Still doesn't make much sense to me, yes, but anyway. And then he says that to Tyrion that you will be my hand, and Grey Worm resists, and Tyrion doesn't want it. Grey Worm disagrees, yeah, Tyrion doesn't want it, so someone else, and Bran says, I choose you, and of course, yeah, Grey Worm disagrees, but Bran tells him he will make up for his mistakes and everything. Yes, and then we see Tyrion and Jon talking, and Bran decided to send Jon to the wall because he said that the Unsullied wasn't your head, but Grey Worm, of course, settled with this, life sentence to the wall. That was interesting too. Yes, and Jon, of course, is wondering if the wall still exists and all of these things. And he says, I guess that I will not see you again. But then Tyrion says that, of course, the burden of being a hand is too much, and anyone would want to go to the end of the world at some point. Yes. Of course, and then we see Jon leaving King's Landing, and he looks at Grey Worm, who is in a ship, and the Unsullied as well, and we don't know what happened to the Dothraki at this point, but it was a beautiful moment there when Grey Worm said that now that everything is ready, they're sailing for Nath, because he's, how I received it, he's trying to honor Missandei's memory and do what they couldn't do together. Although I'm worried because nobody told him that usually the visitors, tourists, do not survive in Nath because of the butterflies, and I think they are poisonous, if I remember correctly from the books. Anyway, it was weird, but it was beautiful as well. Nice scene. Yes, and then Jon meet the rest of the Starks, and they have beautiful emotional moments there. And Sansa says, can you forgive me? And Jon is telling her something nice, like, I wouldn't have chosen someone better than you, to do what you did, something like that. And they hug, it was beautiful. And then he tells Arya, where are you going now? And because she doesn't want to go back to the north, and she's telling him that she's going west of Westeros, what is there, and that's where I'm going. And Jon tells her, do you have a needle? And they hug, a beautiful moment there, and he bends the knee to Bran, and says, your grace, and everything, Jon being Jon until the last moment, and sorry I was not there for you, when you needed me. And Bran, with his enigmatic look and everything, tells him you were exactly where you were supposed to be. Yeah, and then Jon leaves, and another beautiful moment, scene, next scene is Brienne being there with the book, the white book of the Kingsguard, and you know what's about to happen. I was like, oh my god, my poor sweet Brienne. My heart. And she finds, of course, Jaime's page, and she decides to write down his deeds and whatever he did, and she says that he went north to fight for the living, and then he traveled from north to the city again to protect people where the danger moves there, and he died protecting his queen. And you can see that she's so emotional at that moment. Yes, she has so many emotions, and she's almost crying, but she did write down that because she loves Jaime. Oh my god, probably my most favorite scene from this episode. Yes, and she closes the book. I love that. Yes, Brienne, again, another favorite character of mine. I'm glad she survived the series, even though I didn't expect it. Yes, and we see Tyrion being at the small council's room, and we see the rest of the members of the small council coming afterwards. Sam, who's the Grand Maester, Bronn, excuse me, Davos, and Brienne as well. And Sam shows a book to Tyrion, and he says that Maester Eberus, if I'm not mistaken, wrote it, but I helped him with the title because I wanted something poetic, and the book is called The Song of Ice and Fire, something like Lord of the Rings reference as well. Yes, nice stats there. But of course, for some reason, Tyrion is not mentioned in the book, and you can see that he's a bit, why dissatisfied with that. Yes, and then Brienne arrives with Bran, and they say that they don't have a master of laws, whisperers, and war, and they need that. And master of coins is Bronn, is has the title, and Davos has the title of master of ships. Of course, nice stats there. And Brienne is the commander of the King's Guard. And Bran asks about Drogon, and nobody knows. And the last time he was seen was west. And yeah, what else? We see that Bronn has his castle in the end. Has received his castle, yes. And back to Drogon, because I forgot to tell you that Bran says perhaps oh my god, I cannot talk again, I will find him and carry on with the rest. And we see Pod, who is also in the King's Guard, taking him, and they leave, and yeah, they talk about the business. Yes, afterwards. And then we see Jon arriving at the wall, and of course Tormund is there, and we see the last few scenes of the episode with Arya looking at the maps, and Jon having Longclaw and his armor. He's again Lord Commander of the Night Watch, and Sansa with a fancy dress that has leaves of the weirdwood tree. Yes, and nice colors there, and she's getting dressed, and you get that she's the queen in the north. You understand that, and they are walking nice direction as well there, and she's going in, and she's going in the hall, a great hall, and people bending the knee, and saying Queen in the North, Queen in the North, and she has a nice little crown in her head. Yes, I couldn't understand what exactly was, but I think it was wolf definitely, and something else, something like that, a nice little crown. And we can see that Sansa got what she wanted all along. Yes, she's a queen now in the north. And we see, Jon and Tormund about to leave the wall, and we see Ghost. Jon sees a ghost, and oh my god, this time he made up for the last one that he didn't say goodbye. Jon is happy, and he pets him. They have a nice, cute, beautiful moment, and I was so happy for that, because they didn't have a proper goodbye, and not because of Ghost, but because of Jon last time. So I was happy to see that he loves Ghost, of course, and he pets him properly, and he's happy with him, because again, to me, I received that it's because Jon has been a Stark all along. It doesn't matter if he was Rhaegar's son, but he has been a Stark, and of course, before, in the beginning that they were talking with Tyrion, he mentions it at some point. He says, yes, I have Targaryen blood too, I'm supposed to be fire and blood, I'm not. Yes, so he has been a Stark all along. Yes, and we see Arya being in the sea, in the ship, and she has the Stark banner, of course, the wolf, and she's sailing, she's happy. Arya got, her wish granted as well. And yes, last scene, Jon, Tormund, Ghost, and the wild, oh my god, I cannot speak, the wildlings leaving the wall again, and going north of the wall, now that there is no danger, and probably they're going there to rebuild their houses and community again, and John looks a bit sad, and they go into the woods, you know, and I like the detail that you see the small plant in the snow start growing, probably pointing towards summer coming, since now the danger has passed and everything. Yes. And John, I guess, is there with Tormund. They will help them, you know, build their homes again and everything. And that was the last scene of the episode. Yes, that was it. Now what I wanted to say is that I still don't know how I feel about this episode. I have mixed feelings. Of course I was expecting that, but I didn't get too much, you know, shock or surprise. It was more of a quiet episode, if I may say so. Yes, and I was not left with you know, hype and everything that I'm usually left with after a Game of Thrones episode, so I guess this tells a lot. Yes, a bit disappointed at some parts and choices they made, I have to admit. Was it the ideal ending to this great series? Probably not, because it felt so rushed to me, and I've seen people online complaining about the same thing. They should have had 10 episodes this season and 6 in another season, I would have chosen, so they would have more time to write something and explain to us something like that, you know, what happened and everything, and of course tell the story, the character's story in a less rushed way, you know, so that it will make more sense, because I still have questions and everything. What about Drogon, and again, why Bran, and all these things. Yes, mixed feelings, but I liked many scenes, as I told you, beautiful moments, emotional, because I'm like that as a person, more, you know, emotional, and the beautiful moments. That's what I thought. Anyway, this was my last video of Game of Thrones. I really enjoyed making these guys for you, even though it has been quite a struggle delivering 2 videos in a week for you. And I cannot wait to go back to my regular schedule, uploading 1 video per week, or maybe 1 in 2 weeks. Depends on my inspiration and the time I have and everything. But in any case, I hope you enjoyed this series, and thank you so much for keep on watching it, because I see you do, and I'm happy you enjoyed, those of you who did, and thank you for sticking with me to this through this Game of Thrones journey. It was nice, and I still can't believe it's over, this great show. Anyway, as always, let me know your thoughts down below. Let's continue the conversation, and of course, like this video if you liked it, you know, just in honor of Game of Thrones. What can I say? And share this video if you think it's worth sharing. Of course, put it in a playlist, whatever, you know these things, I trust you. And I have to let you know that I will not be making another video this week. Oh, I need to take some rest, plus I will be at Wildfest this coming weekend, so I will not have time to make a video and upload. I will be, you know, rocking to good music that I love. Yes, and taking a break for a while, and I will be uploading the week after that, or maybe in 2 weeks, music related video, or maybe something else related, makeup, fashion, movies, something different, we'll see. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe in case you wish to support. Click the little bubble with my face in it over here, and I will get to see you in the next one. Have a great one, guys. Bye. Mwah.